Nicole Jones, and I've been homeschooling. We were trying to think of it last night, and I think it's like 8 years. Yeah, 8 years already, 8 going on 9 years. And so we have I'm 12-year-old, a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old. And my husband and I both work. We own an after-school program, and my husband is on staff at a church here in Hattiesburg. And so we are a working family. And like I said, we have 2 children. And hopefully tonight, some of the information that we share with you guys will help in whatever decision you choose to make. So that's it.
I'm Colby Sparkman, and I have 4 children, and we've been homeschooling. I think this will be our 5th year coming up. And Nicole and I actually met when both of our girls were in kindergarten at a public school. And so all my girls went to traditional school, and then we started homeschooling and have been doing that for about 5 years now. And I have a little boy who has always homeschooled in that sense. So
yeah.
We're here. So.
I forgot to say that. Yeah, our kids went to school at some point, so that is a good perspective to have. So.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we'll.
Yeah, I thought it might be good just to start off because you do have a business and you have kids at that business, just to go ahead and address some of the concerns for parents who are weighing the options and concerned about kids wearing masks and those kind of things because you've had experience with that.
Yes. Okay. So we have an after-school program that usually during the school year services about 120 children. Of course, since the pandemic, our numbers have decreased quite a bit because of the amount of children that CDC requires for us to have in the classroom. One of the things that they suggested early on was that the children wear a mask. The reason being was that you would actually not be considered close contact if you had on mask. And so that would keep the entire center from having to close down in the event that a child or a teacher tested positive for COVID. And so then it also just helped with a lot of things that I'll get into in a little bit. But one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, we've been doing this since about May. We started off just being open for essential workers, and then we transitioned in June into our just regular summer camp. And one of the things that we communicated with our students early on was that our children are not wearing their mask for themselves. For themselves, but for their neighbor. And so that was one of the things that we encourage them, is that you're wearing it to honor other people. So I know people are back and forth about whether or not it works, but let me tell you one thing that does work about masks. We have, and thank the Lord, I'm so grateful, but we've not had any illnesses. Like we usually have all the summer colds, like everyone's noses are running, that kind of thing. But that's gone way down. We don't have younger children like chewing on pencils. Like we were laughing the other day because we used to hate to sharpen pencils because they would so just the kids like keeping their hands out of their nose and their mouth just in general has helped with this, not to spread the germs. So that's the first thing. They do keep them on. Now, do we have to tell them to pull them over their nose every once in a while? Most definitely. But from early on, we communicated with them that this is something that if we wanted to be at summer camp and we wanted to interact and we wanted to go on field trips and we wanted to do these things, then these are the rules, and these are the rules that we have to follow, and they were cool with it. The second thing is someone said, asked me, I'm afraid that my child might not be able to breathe. I'm afraid that my child might have an issue. People go back and forth about it. Our children wear their mask all the time. They even wear them at recess. We do have mask breaks where we're like, spread out, breathe, But for the most part, our recesses are only about 15 minutes, and we do have more recesses throughout the day than other children. And in traditional school, but they wear them all day. They very rarely complain about the mask at all. Someone asked me, can you hear them talk? That is an issue. I will be honest with you, especially when you hear someone say, Miss Nicole, and I'm like, who's talking? So it is an issue when we are trying to communicate all at one time. Now, if I ask a question and one child is talking, I can't hear them talk. It's actually harder for me as a teacher to communicate an extended period of time with my mask on. And so I do think that some of the schools are considering something like face shields or something like that. When I'm wearing my N95, because it's a cone, I am able to speak a little bit clearer than I am with the cloth mask. So I choose to wear an N95. And finally, I get asked the question all the time, would you send your kids to school? You homeschool or whatever. One of the things that I would like to say is that when we chose to homeschool, it was not because of fear. It was not because of frustration. It was truly because the Lord had called us to homeschool. And when someone asked me, would I send my kids to school? I would truly tell you, I would do whatever the Lord has told me to do. I mean, all of this is wild and it's so overwhelming, but this is a question that you and your family have to decide. But one thing that I will say, and I say this all the time, that the decisions that we make need to be decisions that are based on how we impact the kingdom of God. So however your life intertwines with other people, like, to be honest, when it was time for us to open up ASAP, I was completely and totally afraid, but that's how my life impacts the kingdom of God. That's how my life impacts the kingdom of God. And so in order for me to continue to do what we've been called to do, we had to be open. And so I would just challenge you to ask that question for yourself, but don't make a decision based on fear. So those were my questions.
Good. Well, and I wanted to say one thing too. The reason why we started homeschooling, my daughter was going into 6th grade and had multiple health problems, and we were just trying to figure out how to bring some peace and health to not just her, but our whole family. We were all needing something, and I felt like this was what we needed to do. This was, and I did it. It was May. I decided in May. I went over to Nicole's house and tried to figure out what in the world we're going to do. And for me, I knew I just had 4 kids, all these different subjects. I just didn't think that I could do that myself. And so I found an online curriculum, and that's what I have done. Now I have changed curriculums, but that's what has worked really well and done best for us. And so, do you, there was one thing I wanted to talk about, a lot of questions about, we heard comments, and I saw people posting things about earlier on when things were shut down, about parents saying that they were homeschooling. And I wanted to talk about the difference between actually homeschooling and distance learning or virtual learning. Some of schools are going to offer those things again, which I'm sure they're much more thought out and planned out than they were in April, all of a sudden having to do that. But there's a big difference between doing virtual type learning from a school and homeschooling. The biggest difference to me is that homeschooling allows you to have a lot more autonomy. You decide when everybody's going to get up and start working and what you're going to work on that day, or how long, or if you're going to come back and do it later on in the evening, or whatever you're going to do. Whereas, as I understand, and Nicole, you can tell me what you understand about this, the distance learning and virtual learning, a lot of it is you're going to have a time when you're going to have to be on a computer. Your kid is going to have to be on the computer connected to the classroom or the teacher or corresponding, but it will be specific times, which I know I had friends whose kids had to be in their uniform top and up and ready at 8 o'clock. And it's very different than homeschooling and the autonomy that comes with that. Even if you do online school, online homeschool is very, you make those choices. So do you have any comments?
Yeah, and that's another thing too that I wanted to make sure. We had a question about curriculum, and we will definitely get to that. That was another thing that I wanted to make sure that people understood, is that because the virtual learning for the fall will be completely different than what happened in the spring. From my understanding, there will be teachers actually responsible for virtual learning. So depending on your child's, maybe their last name or what grade they're in, or the actual school that they go to, they will have a specific time that they will have to log in order to do their virtual style of learning. And And that is mostly because there has to be accountability. I mean, when you're receiving funds for a child, which is what happens when you choose to enroll your child in a public school, the school receives funds for your child. And so they have to be held accountable to make sure that that child is getting what they need. So that means that your child will still be tested. There will still be state testing, and your child still can be considered passed or failed based on those tests. So that's something that you really want to make sure that you're thinking through when you decide to do virtual learning, which is completely different than homeschooling. All virtual learning means is that you are going to be responsible for your child while they are still being taught by the school. So it's very important for you to understand that difference. Some of the school districts as well are saying that if you choose virtual learning, if your child was involved in gifted studies, if your child was involved in orchestra, any type of extracurricular activities, when you choose virtual schooling, then you choose not to participate in extracurricular activities. So you might want to look and ask your school district about that in particular, because I know that you guys have to make a decision by July 20th. So that's the difference between virtual school and actually the traditional school of your children going in. And do understand that you're still going to be held with the same accountability while they're trying to figure this out. So that might mean that your expectations may not be met when you step into saying, oh, I want to go the virtual route, and then you're expecting something that does not happen. Well, that does not matter if your expectations are not met. You're still going to be responsible for testing, state testing, and those type of things. So that is something that we definitely wanted to clear up.
Right.
The difference between virtual school and homeschooling.
And just one thing about homeschooling, people want to know how do you homeschool and how does that work with the school district? Actually, and especially during this time, we're pretty fortunate to live in Mississippi because all you have to do is contact your school's attendance officer, and they will mail you a postcard. You put your kid's name on it and whatever curriculum you're using. There is no certain curriculum you have to use. You just write down whatever curriculum and you mail in the postcard. And that is all you do. That is it. So, I mean, Nicole and I had our truancy officer, attendance officer, she contacted us this time. Well, usually she mails them to, we will contact her and she'll mail them to us. But she contacted us a couple of days ago to say, hey, you guys are still homeschooling? Okay. I've got you off my list. But some people have asked, and Nicole, you might know a little bit more about this. People have said, okay, well, so let's say I'm not comfortable sending my kids to school. I don't want to do the virtual route because that seems, like it's going to be difficult for me. But what if things clear up in a couple of months and I want to send my kid back to school? So what then? So Nicole, you probably could answer that a little better than me because I don't know as much about it.
Right. Okay. So let's first start with elementary school. Okay. Because elementary school is completely different than high school. And again, we are not experts. We've only been doing this for a few years. So we're definitely giving you this information from information that we've researched, but don't take it as like, you definitely want to do your own research.
And so every district's different. Every state is very different. So
if you're calling from a different state, all of this might not even be relevant to you, right? So, but if you choose to homeschool, well, first, let me say this, depending on your district, some school districts are making the parent commit to virtual learning, which means that if you choose virtual learning in August, then you have chosen to commit to virtual learning through December, okay? Some school districts are saying that you can virtually learn, and if it does not work out for you and you want to send your child to traditional school, then you can do that as well. You would need to check with your school district to see what their rules are. But I will say this, if you start homeschooling your child in August and you decide August 15th, like we're not doing this. If you decide December 1st, we're not doing this, legally, you can put your child back in school and that's it. Now, Some schools require testing to see if your child is on level. They might do an aptitude test or no, placement test. They might do a placement test to make sure that your child has completed a few things. Some schools ask for, do you have some type of transcript? Do you have a copy of the work that they've already completed, a copy of their grades to turn in? So be prepared to know that if this is not something that you're trying to do an extended period of time, this is something that you're just doing only because of the pandemic, you definitely want to make sure that your record keeping is on point, because you don't know, this is all new. I mean, the pandemic could change anything. So you want to make sure that whatever you do, you're keeping records. And when we first started homeschooling, I'm going to be honest, like we started, when we first started homeschooling, we weren't sure year to year what was going to happen. I literally had binders full of like stuff that my kids did just in case, in the event that we had to put our children back into school. So I would say that if this is something that we're not going to do this for an extended period of time, and we're choosing to homeschool, make sure that your record keeping is on point so that when your child does go back into school, you can say, hey, this is what they've been doing from August to October. High school is a little bit different. And it also depends on if you have a freshman or you have one who's closer to a senior. So I'll talk to you from both of those things. I have had people ask me, does my child have to, am I jumping in front of us? Are we okay? Okay, yeah.
I think you're good. You're good. Okay.
Does my child have to have an accredited curriculum?
Right. Yeah.
First of all, I really don't understand the non-accredited thing, because a child can get into college as long as they have a transcript and an ACT score. That's all. I mean, I'm like, literally, I can print out a transcript on the back of this sheet of paper and put Jones Academy and send in the ACT score, and they'll get in. Now, there's different colleges that might be a little bit more strict and want to have a little bit more detail. But at the end of the day, your child's transcript and their ACT score is what they need to enter college. So if you have a child that's entering ninth grade, what you want to make sure is that you look at the Mississippi recommendations for what a ninth grade should be taking. So if your child needs, Algebra 1 and an English class, just make sure they're in those classes. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's literally, you can find a curriculum, find those few classes, sign them up for it, and that's good. Now, on the other hand, if you have someone who is a senior, like my daughter is 16, but as most of you guys know, that by your senior year, most of your classes are done, right? So if you have a child that's going into their senior year, they maybe have one, like they might need a chemistry or another math. You can literally have them take one or two of those classes, get a grade for it, and put it on their transcript. It's as simple as that. So just letting you know the different age groups, the biggest thing I would say is make sure that you're being very particular about keeping, I would say, records, because we just don't know how these rules are going to change. Right now we're saying, oh, Mississippi is wide open, you can do whatever you want to do. But as more people are beginning to homeschool, those things might change. So you want to make sure that you're looking at what the guidelines are, what are the expectations of a ninth grader, and make sure that they're doing those things. Elementary is a little bit different because I mean, the classes that you take are going to be, it's like third grade math or fourth grade math or fifth grade math, right? So, but with high school, I would look at, pull your child's transcript, see what they've completed, what they need. If they're done, dual enroll them this semester, and maybe speak with the counselor and say, hey, if my child is done and they have an option for your child to do virtual learning for one class, I would say take the opportunity to go ahead and dual enroll them and, just sit tight. So that's just my opinion about those.
Well, and also just in Mississippi, you cannot, like Nicole's daughter, as she finishes homeschooling, she'll take her GED so in Mississippi you don't get a diploma, you just take the GED. But you, like she said, all you need is a transcript, literally, that like mama can write out, and try to be honest, but, and the ACT score. And then, I mean, I know students who homeschooled all the way through and have scholarships and, I mean, if you're trying to go to Stanford, you might, there might be some other hoops that you have to jump through, but, for most colleges, it's not that big of a deal. Now, if you're wanting your ninth grader, like you said, Nicole, I don't know what all the stipulations are. If you have a ninth grader and they're they homeschool and take biology and all these classes, I don't know. You might want to talk with your particular school that you plan on enrolling them back in to say, what do you want us to do? Now, there are plenty of accredited homeschools online. They're even called private schools. Some of the online schools are called private schools, and they're varying. Most of them are the cost of a private school, basically, in our area anyway. And but there are some that are just like $75 a month. So that you can find an accredited online high school courses if that's what you feel like you need.
I feel like you need that, yeah.
Somebody asked, is homeschooling hard? Do I really have to teach them? I always say I went the lazy route because I was like, I cannot teach all these children. And when I've had to, I've done some writing courses with them, and that has never gone very well. And so we have always done online, and my kids learn the concepts and are tested on it. And the great thing about the program that we use is that they cannot move forward until they've mastered the concept. It's not like they can just keep skipping forward, but they have to understand and master the concept to go to the next lesson or the next unit exam or whatever. And I even found our online curriculum really didn't have a writing element, and so I've found online writing 6-week writing courses that are all the way through high school. My 11th grader will take a research paper class, and she turns in information to a teacher, and they correct it and give her information about how to do better. So, Nicole, you've done lots of people do different routes.
Right.
So you've actually done some different things. So.
Yeah, we've done a homeschool co-op that's in our area called Classical Conversations, and we loved it when our children were young. We've also done
you might want to explain what that is, how that kind of works.
Yeah. And I'm not the best at explaining classical conversations, but anyways, it was a great what we did is we went to class once a week with what we called a tutor who introduced information, and throughout the week we worked on that information. And that is a co-op that's here locally in Hattiesburg, and I'm not sure if they've already finished registration or not, but it is a great group of people, and we enjoyed it so much. But that's definitely not something that you want to do if you're just going to homeschool because of the pandemic. If it's something that the Lord's led you to do for a while and you just haven't thought about it, it would be a great opportunity for you to connect with other moms and connect with the other group of people so that you can kind of that's why when we first joined, it was amazing to connect with other homeschool moms and get to talk with each other and like, oh, what are you trying, and what are you trying? We've also done a curriculum called it's gone. Bob Jones. No. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was more of like, you get all your textbooks and all your workbooks. And did we lose?
Sorry about that. I'm sorry. My bad.
Yeah. Textbooks and workbooks, and it comes all in a big box, and you get a lesson plan. And I had to stand in front of my kids and teach them. And it would say, teacher say, students say, it was very direct instruction. I've done that before. My children are a little bit older, and they have just created this environment where they learn on their own. They're very self-driven. And so we were able to do an online curriculum. We actually do the same curriculum as the Sparkmans, and we love it. It's actually called ASAAP Power Homeschool, which I think would be a great suggestion for you guys that are just transitioning or just homeschooling in between, or just one semester. It keeps up with your grades. It keeps up with the amount of hours the kids are in the class. I mean, you could print out an entire, what is the thing you get at the beginning of a syllabus? I mean, like, you literally, everything is right there. And it's so cheap. It's like $25 a month for 6 classes.
Seven now. 7 classes now.
7 classes. Look, Power Homeschool needs to pay me. Seriously.
Yeah, I know, really. We don't get paid for this, but they do a great job.
When I tell you Jesus is in Power Homeschool, but it has been a blessing to us. So that is the curriculum that we use. Our children like it. The videos aren't long, the videos aren't boring, and like she said, the algorithms are set up to where if your child is struggling, does not go to the next level until they've completed it. So yeah.
And I have the curriculum that we've used, and again, there are tons of stuff out there, and it is overwhelming actually. And that's what I felt at first. I thought, how do I decide what to do? And so, and we did use a different online curriculum at first that just didn't work for us, and it wasn't. And when we, actually my sister-in-law started homeschooling and found this ASAAP, which is called powerhomeschool.com. ASAAP is their accredited version, and it's the same curriculum. It's just, I don't really know. But
$25 one is the one we have.
What's that? Yeah, we got we do the $25 for kids, $25. But when I first started, I was a little concerned because all my girls could read, and so they just got on the computer and did it. But my son couldn't read, and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to teach him how to read. He learned how to read. He reads great, and the math has been amazing. The elementary math for him, the multiplication stuff that they've taught him, he just picked it up like that. And now my oldest daughter has done, she had chemistry this year, and she was struggling a little bit with that. I've been able to help her some with her math, but chemistry, I was just not able to help her with. And so we got a local college student, and she came a few times and helped her get on track. There's also, we also just found something. She was Algebra 2, she started having some trouble with that, and I tried to help her. We had to get a tutor, but there's this thing called Study Pug that is a tutor. It's an online tutor, and it made all the difference for her. It was, I don't know, different kids have different responses to different things. So so any age, it's been helpful for us. So I guess I kind of covered that, what curriculum you'd suggest for elementary, middle, and high school students.
$25.
$25. I mean, you could try it for a month. There's no contract, and so
right.
It's really great. We also, there's a writing curriculum that we use called Time for Writing, like the number 4, and that's the curriculum I was talking about, that you actually turn something into a real teacher, and you can ask her questions and things like that.
Vanessa is a senior, and she's actually taken a couple of schools have been offering free writing classes for dual enrolled students, and I'll have to get the name of it. And she actually found it. No, my friend told me about it, and she registered for it and everything. She's like, I registered for this class. I'm like, good.
Yeah.
But, so what you will find is that if you do choose to homeschool, one of the things that I will say is that my children are a lot more responsible than I actually thought they were. I mean, literally, they take ownership. They want to get finished so that they can go do the other things, and it's just really been a good thing to see. So I did put Power Homeschool and Time for Writing in the comment section. So.
Oh, great, good, yeah, thanks. Is there anywhere, we get asked this a lot, is there anywhere I can send my child to be homeschooled? And actually, I've just of late, and I think you will probably find more and more people, because their teachers going, oh, I don't think I want to go back. What am I going to do? I need a little more, I need to supplement my income. There are people, and I have friends who I have a friend who has someone come to their house and homeschool their girls. She was homeschooling her child and brought the first year and brought her child over and homeschooled them. There are people that will homeschool kids in their home. There are lots of different people who offer classes. There are a variety of classes. Even we have a friend who offers chemistry and biology at her house, and she has, I don't know, 6 to 8 students. I don't know. Nicole might know. Come, and she's certified to teach this, and then there are classes like photography and other, kind of extracurricular type classes that people teach for kids.
And I will say this, you guys, we're in this season of being considerate of other people. And one of my concerns has been everyone wants to homeschool now because they're afraid, right? But please be considerate. Like if you are hiring a teacher, or even if you get a teacher who's teaching your child, right? I would say up front, go ahead and communicate like, hey, if the numbers go down, if, we get a vaccine, or if things clear up by October, I'm only doing this temporarily, because everyone is we are all making day by day decisions, right? Everything can change. So one of the hesitancies that I've had at our program about opening up like a distance learning or like a homeschooling type environment is that, how long is this going to last? I mean, I'm thinking hopefully a couple of months, but is this going to go on for another year? Is this going to go on for another 2 years? So I think that whenever you make the decision about homeschooling, your decision should be, I am ultimately responsible for my child's education, period. So if the teachers don't work out, if the classes don't work out, if whatever doesn't work out, I am responsible. And so when you're making this decision, when you sign that card and say, I am responsible, if anything goes down, they're coming looking for you, And so I think that's one thing that I have wanted to say on this video is that people are looking for their children, looking for somewhere for their child to be homeschooled. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're making this decision understanding that ultimately it's your responsibility. When you choose to homeschool your child, you are choosing to be responsible for your child. And so I just wanted to make that real clear, especially as things are changing pretty quickly, I would say.
Yeah. And if you're looking for someone, just begin to ask around. You can. Today I posted something on the Pine Belt Homeschool page, the Facebook page, to someone said that they were offering something like that. So we're trying to help connect people who are in need. Even if you're using a program like ASAAP, you can just hire a college student to come. I mean, not, you might not be a college student, or, someone to come over and just kind of and be with your kids. If they're older, you might not need that, but if you're having to go to work or not being at home, that's your concern. It's going to be costly, but you could hire someone, but you could use a program that, they don't have to be responsible for teaching them. Correct.
Yes. And that is, I think that a lot of people are thinking about that as well. Like, I need childcare, like I want to homeschool, but I have to go to work. Or even if you work from home, like the question of like, how do I work from home? And my child is in there and they have a question, because I work, my husband works, and your kids don't care that you're at work when they have a question, and so if you have a job that takes a lot of your attention, and your child is starting a new curriculum, the new school year, trying to figure out the bugs, like, I think that's a great suggestion to have someone who can maybe be there while your child is homeschooling. That's a great suggestion.
And also, I know other people who have had, as far as financially not being able to do that, there were friends of mine. It was a mom and a dad and another mom and a dad. And they each had a child the same age, and each of them had a flexible enough schedule that they could take one day off a week, whether, they worked 12-hour days or whatever it was. So each parent took a day of the week and took both the kids. And then on Friday they hired a sitter, and so it's, maybe getting creative with some of those things, and again, if you have an online curriculum, it's okay, because it doesn't matter who's there as long as somebody's there with them and taking care of them.
And we probably have some homeschool seniors that would love to make the money and come.
This is true. This is true.
We just had the question again, and I just want to address it again. Can you homeschool for part of the year and then go back to school? The answer, the response to that again is yes, you can. But like we said before, you want to make sure that you are what did I say? You want to make sure that you're having accurate record keeping. Make sure that you're keeping up with what your child is doing. So yes, you can homeschool for part of the year.
Okay, so someone asked, what are suggestions for a child with dyslexia? And my sister-in-law started homeschooling both of her kids, first, second grade, younger grades, and it was a major struggle. She started homeschooling because they were struggling in school, and it was such a struggle. And then she found out a year or two into it that they were dyslexic, and so they both were able to get into a school for dyslexia. And they actually have done that. And actually there was like a little, her daughter, and her son, they actually were able to go to a little homeschool. This was in Louisiana. There was a little homeschool person who was certified in dyslexia and taught kids there, a small group of kids. But with the pandemic, and she's next door to my mother-in-law who's older. She's just going to keep the kids at home, but they've gotten some of that learning in that special help that she really could not offer them. Now, ASAAP does offer certain special education classes, right, Nicole?
I have not looked into them. I really can't speak to that.
So if there's some kind of the ASAAP curriculum does have some special education, but it's not specific to dyslexia, and I don't know of other.
Yeah. I do know that a lot of our parents that have homeschooled and their children were dyslexic, they used a Becca because of, like, it's written in, it's a lot of like manuscript, like a lot of cursive writing, and that helps with dyslexia therapy. All their textbooks are in cursive. So you might want to look into that as well if you do have a child that has dyslexia. But again, let's go back to the reason why we're homeschooling, right? So make sure that whatever decision you make in regards to homeschooling your children, think about how you're impacting the kingdom, right? And so if you like Kobe was just saying, her sister-in-law lives next door to her mother-in-law, and her sister lives next door, and like it's a health issue. You know, I'm caring for someone who is vulnerable, and my children cannot be exposed because we care for someone who's vulnerable. That's how you impact the kingdom. Your job at this season is to care for a vulnerable population, right? So I do want to re-enroll. Yeah. So just make sure that whatever decisions that you make in regards to that it's something that you can justify, and not, I want to just keep saying that, not just fear, you know, because it runs out, the patience runs out, you know?
Yeah. And talking about having your kids at home all day, I know most people have experienced that now, you know, and you've done it all summer. I've talked to friends who, I have lots of friends who work full time and have had their kids at home. Friends who work part time and used to have their kids, you know, there were camps and different things they could do in the summer, you know, but since spring break, everybody's had their kids at home. And so you know what that's like. But actually when you're homeschooling and you're making your own schedule, that makes it's a little easier, because you're like, okay, kids, you're going to get up and, you know, whatever time you decide, 9:00, we're going to start on our little schoolwork. So you have this kind of routine in the schedule that they become used to. Whereas we're all kind of, it's all, you know, up in the air right now, you know? So, that was one of my middle daughter, whenever I asked her if she, you know, wanted to homeschool, you know, if she was worried about homeschool, we were going to be homeschooling, and what she was concerned about, she said, I'm just worried about being around my sisters all day long. I told her, that's the thing I'm worried about too, you know, I'm going to be around my kids all day long. So, see, it is an adjustment, and I know a lot of you have already experienced some of that, but there are challenges, like Nicole has said.
Yeah. And being around your children with an expectation of schooling is a completely different being around your children with you hanging out or us maybe just making things up as we go along, right? Because again, there is a bit of a burden with understanding that your child's education is resting on your shoulders. And so I don't want to present this idea that that staying at home with your kids all day is not hard, or that it is hard, right? But it's different when you're when you have a goal every single day to get a task completed. And so, like, I'll give you an example with our children. Because of the pandemic, we're normally finished with school around April because of our summer camp. Well, because of the pandemic, they were almost finished with school. And so we decided to add a few more classes, right? And so just a couple of classes, but we added those classes and then we opened back up. And so it changed the dynamics of what they usually do when they normally have all day to finish schoolwork. Now we're at summer camp. Now we're not getting home until 6 o'clock. So what I'm saying is just be mindful that I know that you've had your kids home since March, and I know that you feel like you can do this, and you can. It is so doable. But I don't want the idea of, because you've already done it, that it's going to be easy, because it's going to be different. And so that expectation needs to be made, that you need to have that expectation, like, this is going to be different. We're going to do this. And I would say set a goal. I would say set a goal and say, hey, what we're going to do is, for the next 30 days, we're going to set this goal to have this schedule. And if it doesn't work, switch it up. But be, I guess, flexible. Is that the word I'm trying to say? Yeah. Be flexible. If something doesn't work, change it.
That's probably is one of the challenges for me, because some days I go, oh my goodness, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? I mean, am I doing the right thing? Or are my kids learning some things, and then realizing, well, if something's not working, I can change it. There's no rule here that says I have to continue to do this way. And so just know that you can be flexible and you can change it. It's really important to get a schedule and a routine. Nicole's kids are awesome. My kids got way behind because of the pandemic, because we had no schedule, and it was so like, oh, you can get it done later. I mean, what is that to do? And so her kids are like rock stars. My kids are like, oh, let's go bike riding, let's go do something else, and so they're finishing. No, they all finished except one. She's finishing one class, but you get to make the rules in the sense, and you can be flexible in that. Mm-hmm. What do you do with your kids all day? What activities does your community offer? I think is that.
Yeah. I think the older your kids get, the more schoolwork they have. I will say that. When my children were younger, we were finished with school maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. So we did a lot of field trips. We did a lot of outside play. I mean, and those are the things, unfortunately, that as a homeschooling now, you still won't get a chance to experience. Kobe and I were talking about it the other day. It's kind of a bummer, because one of the fun things about homeschooling is that your children get to do everything when there's no lines. Your children get to participate in the fun things like, go to the zoo at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. So I would say when they were younger, we did a lot of hands-on stuff. I mean, I was all about I found this 101 science experiments, and we went to all of we did a lot. Now that my children are older, they have their own things that they like to do. One likes to play soccer, one likes to play basketball, one they both love to read. And so now it's a little bit different. If you're homeschooling a high schooler, it'll be a little bit different. I would suggest that if you are homeschooling an older child, try to find things that they're interested in. So if you have a child that's interested in photography, maybe contact USM, maybe contact, posted something the other day, so that your child is able to use the things that they're enjoying on their own. When they're younger, you're doing all those things to try to identify those gifts, because you're like, oh, let's try this, let's try this, let's try that, right? But as they get older, prayerfully, those gifts begin to develop. And so then at that point, instead of identifying, now you're encouraging gifts, right? So now you're saying, oh, you want to do this. Like Vanessa wants to be a librarian. So we contacted the library and said, hey, can she come volunteer? And she loves to be there, right? So that's what I would say when you say, what do you do all day? I think first you identify gifts. So you're doing all the things. And as they get older, you're encouraging gifts, and you're like on, Google, trying to find all of the things to encourage them in that direction of the things that they like. And maybe you'll spend $500 on something, and then they decide they don't. Decided I don't want to do photography.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, and our community has pre-pandemic life. There were so many things that our kids could be involved with, and that were sponsored by our community at large, or either the Homeschool Athletic Association and the arts community here in Hattiesburg. We just had tons of opportunities. We don't know what will be offered, just like you. We don't know. And but one thing that Khan Academy has, and I'll try to post the link on here in the comments, they have a really great schedule for like your first grader, your second grader, your high school. They have these daily schedules, and they're great. But one of the things that my kids have always, part of our schedule they have certain things that they have to do before. I mean, they're on the screen, so I really don't want them on the screen doing their schoolwork. So I really don't want them to spend much time doing screen time. Pandemic life has been different, but they have to do something creative. They have to, spend so much time reading. They have to spend some time doing some kind of exercise or outdoor activity. So daily they know they have chores that they have to do, which has been great because, honestly, when my kids were in school, they didn't have time to do chores.
Right. We did it all.
Yeah. Let's do it all.
I don't do laundry. I don't wash dishes.
But I mean, they're doing chores and I know a lot of you found that out during pandemic, like, okay, we got to do something here, fold the laundry, and so that's again, we on that Pine Belt homeschool Facebook page, that's what I made it for, is because I wanted people to know opportunities that they could where their kids could be involved and connected to lots of different things. And socialization is not
an issue.
It's not a problem at all. So that's
you can do as much or as little as you want. And like I said, when we first started homeschooling, we did all the things for like 3 years, and I was like, whoa, I'm more tired now than I was when they were in school. But I think someone asked, like, what about like different activities now? Pre-pandemic, like she said, we have sports. I think right now they're trying to get a volleyball team, but of course that's all because of the pandemic. Basketball, soccer, track, cross country, those type of things.
Archery, there's archery.
Yeah. We have what is it called? When they argue,
debate. They have a speech debate.
They don't argue, debate. Yeah. Debate. We have speech and debate.
And my kids have been involved in like swim team at the Y, and they've done community league soccer as well when they were younger, and they've done my orchestra, which I don't know that we'll have, all of those things we don't know what we'll have, but there's an after school arts program that Smart Space does that's fun and great and creative for kids. So they're just, if you want something, you could have found it before the pandemic. But
so many things to do. Yeah, they do have ACT prep. They have my daughter actually got to do like a mock ACT at USM. Like they set it all up and all that stuff. Yeah, so they have a lot.
Oh, and also there's the country schoolhouse is they offer all these fun, great farm biology and like arts classes and all kind of, world world concepts classes for kids, elementary age. You know, it's mostly, I think, elementary through about middle school. But they offer a variety of classes that you go to once a week or something like that. So,
and then equipping the saints, it's more of like a co-op. There's a teacher that teaches literature, a teacher that teaches history, science, math, and those are for high school age students. Like she was saying before, they were taking place in her home. I'm not sure where they're going to take place now, but yeah, just, I mean, biology, microbiology. I mean, it's just, it's amazing the things that our kids are able to participate in homeschooling. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Stennis Space Center, I know that they're still trying, it's about 45 minutes from here, but they would do, I mean, you had NASA scientists with the kids, and they were doing experiments, and they actually would do labs for older kids. You could sign up for a lab, and my kids enjoyed. So they're, you know, I know that they're trying to figure out what they're going to do, because they would do once a month, they would do a homeschool Monday. And so we'll just have to see. But there were lots of opportunities, and there still will be some opportunities for kids.
Yeah.
So, any other questions we have?
I think there was one more that said, do you think I can homeschool my child if I work from home? I think we might have touched on that, but just to make sure that we say that one more time. Now, like I've said before, I think Kobe just said this as well. I would suggest, if you work from home and your job needs you to sit at the computer and do your work, I would suggest having someone come in and help you with it, because just it being new in general, if you have a younger child. I mean, high school students, it seems to me from what I've gotten feedback, a lot of the high school students are already taking online courses, whether they be through dual enrollment or, you know, whatever, in at their high school, they're doing things on Google Classroom. So if you have an older child, probably not, but a younger child, I would say K3, K4, you're going to need assistance. I mean, they're going to have questions. They're going to need help. And if you can't assist your child while you're working, think not temporarily, think like this might be the entire semester, right? I would suggest getting someone to help you with that. And like Kobe said, the great thing about homeschooling is it doesn't have to be done at a specific time. So if you have a job that has flex time where you can work, you know, your 40 hours a week over 3 days and you're off 2 days a week, then those 3 days, if your child just, you know, reads, creates, and that kind of thing, and then y'all do school on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, it's so doable. Like, there's a lot of people that don't do school 5 days a week. And as a matter of fact, before my kids got older and their classes were a little bit more intense, we never did school on Friday. We did school Monday through Thursday. We didn't do school on Fridays. And so I think that, you know, it's definitely doable. It depends on the child's age, and it depends on what type of job you have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good.
Yep.
That's good.
That's it. I didn't see any other questions that we didn't answer. And I think we recorded this. So
yeah, so I might have goofed up right at the beginning, but but most of it's been recorded.
So most of it's recorded. See,
so we'll post it.
Logically, not everyone.
And I'll try to post those links when we post the recording as well. So
yeah. Yay. Well, hopefully this helped you guys. I have definitely been praying. Like, I have been praying that people make the best decision for their families, whether you choose to send your children to school traditionally or virtually or homeschool them. Know that it's nobody but God's grace that keeps all of us. And so we're trusting God to keep our children, all of our children, safe, the ones that go to school, the ones that are at home. And do know that as homeschool parents, we have the same concerns as you. You know, I mean, we want our children to be safe. We want our children to still be. Sydney had soccer practice this afternoon, and I was like, oh, you know, it was like so I mean, we're all making decisions that are, you know, that are every day. The decisions change, but do know that we are praying for all of you guys. And yeah, if y'all have any questions, message us again. But we thought this would be good because we were getting messages, questions.
Yeah, get it all out there. So yeah. Thanks, Nicole. Thank y'all.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and we're so excited that you came. We have viewers. Look at y'all. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here, and share that video if you can. I don't know if you can share it after it's recorded. All right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.